Center for Anti-Aging Medicine. You know, when I come to anti-aging, I'm 78 years old, and I wonder what they're talking about. Someone wants to know why I don't have gray hair. I always tell them because I had a choice. I could either have gray hair or hemorrhoids. So I don't know if it's a trade-off, but let's get back to Dan here. He was then hired to run the World Center for Anti-Aging Medicine for a group of doctors out of Florida, where he trained Dominican Republic doctors in alternative therapies. Chelation and hyperbaric, is that the way you say it? Hyperbaric, now I gotta find my place, oxygen therapy. From there he established healthy habits and was in training with Dr. Jerry Barlow, author of From the Shepherd's Purse, on some therapies developed by Dr. Krebs upon Dr. Barlow's death. Dan took over the Barlow Ranch and built, upon Dr. Barlow's death, Dan took over the Barlow Ranch and built a center for alternative health called Healing Waters Ranch, and is a member, which is a members only retreat. Recently he authored a book on Lignans, is that again pronounced right? After working with the members of the National Flaxseed Institute. The Mayo Clinic will begin research this fall on his pure, natural, organic Lignans. So if that's all wrong, Dan Junker's going to set us straight. Where is he? Here he is.
Testing, testing. Is this mic coming on? Is it working? Okay, there it is. Okay. Is that enough of a test? I'm going to start out by telling you a little story, because Clay, are you still here? He never heard this one, and I think everybody ought to hear it. You know, when the United States government started, we actually had a king for a little while, and most people don't realize this, but we had a king, and he lived in the White House, and there was a pond, and he loved to fish. It was right across the road, and so he had what they call a high-wage weather prophet that would tell him whether it was going to rain or not, because it wasn't fitting for a king to get caught in the rain. And so this king would call his high-wage weather prophet in, and he'd say, well, is it going to rain today? And the guy said, absolutely not one little sizzle-sozzle. And so he said, you can go fishing. Well, the king heads down, and he passes this farmer out in the field with a mule. And when he goes by him, the farmer says, well, king, you shouldn't be going fishing. It's going to rain a trash mover and a gully washer. You're going to get soaked. And he said, no, I got a high-wage weather prophet back at the White House, and he said that it's not going to rain one little sizzle-sozzle. So he gets down there. No sooner does he get his cane pole out than a cloud comes over, just drenches him, just soaks him down. He got to walk through the muddy field. So he goes home, and he's a little upset at his high-wage weather prophet. But anyway, he does the same thing again the next day, and again the next day the farmer is out in the field with that mule, and he says, don't go fishing. You're going to get all soaked. He said, no, my high-wage weather prophet said it surely will not rain today. So he got down there, and he got soaked again. So on the way back, he decided, I'm just going to go ahead and fire that high-wage weather prophet I got back at the White House and hire the farmer. The farmer says, oh, you can't hire me. He says, it's the mule. So he went ahead and hired the mule, and jackasses have been running everything in Washington ever since. And most of you would probably agree with that. But I'm supposed to talk about lignans, not politics. So last time I was here about 2 months ago, we talked a little bit about the economy. We made a lot of correct observations at that time. We're going to talk about lignans. I've got a book back there. I just came out with this in February. Lignans, they've been researching it. What happened is years ago, we used to make a product called Laetril. And we had a 10-ton press, impeller press, that we would make this Laetril with. And we got up to where we were making a huge volume of it. Hello? Okay. Is it going now? Fine. Okay, anyway, we were making a lot of this stuff, and a guy from New York comes in, wants to buy the whole company from us. We didn't sell, and 2 days later the feds show up and start watching us, and eventually made it illegal to make Laetril. So we had this press left over, so we decided, well, let's go ahead and start making flaxseed oil. So we started making flaxseed oil. We thought, well, we won't get in trouble with this. And anyway, we started making this flaxseed oil, and then of course we joined the Flaxseed Institute. And so we'd go to their meetings on an annual basis, and we found that they were doing all this tremendous research with flaxseed. And flaxseed was, you know, at the University of Nebraska, they were testing breast cancer. And it was interesting because the medical doctors would come and tell us about their research that they were doing. And at one time they were doing research on breast cancer. And it was so funny because one doctor got up and he said, you know, if you take synthetic hormones or hormone replacement therapy, and you take this, what was it, not progesterone, the Premarin, he said that's made from horse urine, and it's got a lot of xenoestrogens in it. And he said, you've got a 25% increased rate of breast cancer. And another doctor's in the room, and he says, hey, you're not allowed to give that information out to the general public. That's only for doctors to know. Now, isn't that interesting? Anyway, they were doing research on the flaxseed, and what they found was flax-seeds, when they took the lignans off, which basically what we did was we went and looked at University of Nebraska's equipment, and they had a machine that would peel flax seeds. You know how big a flax seed is? You put it under your eyelid to get rid of a sty. Anyway, it would peel these flax seeds, and we'd get about 2 pounds of shell from a bushel of flaxseed. What we'd do is we'd run it through that impeller press and take all the oils out. That way it'd be stabilized. And then we'd powder it up, and that's what but they were only making 5 pounds a week at the University of Nebraska, and it wasn't enough to do a lot of research with. We developed equipment to do higher amounts, so we can do about 300 pounds a day now. But what happened was with this flaxseed, when they started giving it to women, it would go in and block the receptor sites of cancer cells so that they wouldn't get breast cancer, and it would force the xenoestrogens out of the body. Now, you know how xenoestrogens work in your herbicides? What they do is they go into the plant and they lock onto the receptor sites in a plant, and they cause the plant to start growing, and it grows itself to death, literally. Well, that's what happens when you get cancer. You get xenoestrogens locking onto receptor sites, and literally the cancer grows until you die. And then the AMA came along with this great idea and said, well, we'll give you chemotherapy and see if we can kill the cancer. And chemotherapy usually does kill the cancer, but it usually kills the patient at the same time. So we did some research with the flaxseed lignan. We came out with that product last December. We've had absolutely tremendous results. People are taking it all across the country. We are shipping it to China. We're shipping it to Vietnam, Thailand, all over Europe. The unfortunate thing is we went and showed this research to the People Against Cancer. Have you ever heard of that group? It's out Frank Weewa and the People Against Cancer out in Iowa. They read the research. They said, this is great. So what they did was they started grinding flaxseed up and selling it as lignans. Well, you have to take 8 pounds of flaxseed to get the amount of lignans that we get in 1/2 tablespoon of our lignan product. Now, the University of Canada, one of the universities up there, came up with a chemical way to make it, and Archer Daniel Midlands bought up the process, and they thought they were going to make a lot of money off of it. Well, most of the people that are going alternative don't want a chemical solvent used to make the product that's supposed to help them, you know, clean the chemicals out of their body. But what the lignan actually does is it not only blocks receptor sites of cancer cells, but it actually goes into the body. It pulls toxins out. It has a very, very strong electrical charge. It pulls toxins out, and it stimulates the immune system. And the School of Naturopathy down in Scottsdale, Arizona, I think it's Southwest University, we just sent a lot down there, and they're starting to do research with it. They're doing lupus research at Mayo Clinic now, and they're also doing some diabetes research. They found that people that had a tendency towards diabetes, if they would take the lignan on a daily basis, it would cut their chances of getting diabetes, either type 1 or type 2, by anywhere from 40 to 60%. And we've got a lot of this research in the book. If you can't afford a book, they're $2.50. We put them on sale, but you can have one free if you can't afford one. But you should read about it because there's tremendous research in here. This is also working extremely well with prostate cancer. Now, with prostate cancer, they came out with a product called Peanuts. And it was interesting. They actually are warning people not to take flaxseed oil if they have prostate cancer. They say it doesn't reduce the swelling. Well, in some cases it does, but in other cases it aggravates it. But with the lignin, you're getting none of the omega-3s, 6, or 9s. This is basically, the lignin is an SDG, which is a phytochemical, and that phytochemical is actually like an estrogen, but it's a very gentle one. And what it does is it displaces the xenoestrogens so that your body actually detoxifies, and it stops that overgrowth on cancer cells, and it blocks them from being able to replicate. Also, they did some research on colon cancer. I was on a cruise. It was an alternative health cruise in February. We went down to Fort Lauderdale and took off out of there, and they were doing lecturing on, Gary Gordon was there lecturing on chelation, of course, and they were lecturing on mercury and mercury toxicity and DMPS, and anyway, the gal that brings all the DMPS in from Germany was on there and on the cruise, and she had her mother with, but her mother couldn't get out of the cabin because she had colon cancer and she just had her first round of chemo and she was extremely sick. So I gave her a bottle of Lignans, and it was amazing. Within 24 hours she was up and going. 3 months later she went back in and she had liver cancer. They x-rayed her, all her liver cancer was cleaned out, and she's extremely excited now. She offered to give me her daughter if she'd get well. But, you know, when they get well, they always change the conditions of the deal. Should have got it in writing. But anyway, basically, you know, with all of your degenerative conditions, though, irregardless of how many years you come to Global, you're always going to hear the same thing on certain things. You know why? Because everything will always come down to detoxification, building the immune system, and giving the body the basic building blocks so that it can rebuild itself. Now, when we were designed by the ever-living, we were designed in such a way that we're supposed to self-repair. I mean, if you get a cut, you don't have to go someplace to get it fixed, do you? Your body heals itself, doesn't it? Most of the time. You don't have to go in and hook up to a computer and somebody reprogram you. Your body is designed to basically self-repair. Now, why don't we self-repair anymore? Well, it's because we're full of toxins, we've destroyed the immune systems, or we haven't given the body the basic building blocks. And almost every speaker here is hitting on the same thing. Now, we can do this with nutrition, and there's people here who say, well, we can do it just with the mind, and you know what? We can. The problem is the masses aren't ready for that yet, are they? I mean, look how many people are here. Every chair should be filled. But how many people aren't ready to see something happen in the minds of other people? You know, if I said, well, you don't really need to take this vitamin, all you need to do is think yourself well, they'd say, you probably ought to lock him up. But we know that's true. But see, most people haven't utilized what's going on in the mind. So you have to give them an excuse to get well, and that's when you use nutrition. And, you know, you can give them the frequency or the vibratory rate. The reason Gary Young's been so successful in the Young Living Oils is simply because there's a fellow up in Spokane, Washington that built a machine where he could test the vibratory rate of everything that he carries as far as product line. So what he did was, instead of just ordering some essential oil, he went out and found the finest quality, the one with the highest vibratory rate. Now we're doing a seminar this evening, and we're going to talk about vibratory rates, and we're actually going to teach you how to find vibratory rates with the EMT machine. Remember a couple years ago when the fellow was here and spoke with the EMT machines out of Idaho? Well, shortly after that, the FDA closed them down. And they got a lot of heat out of that, but we started manufacturing some of the same equipment. The only thing is we don't charge people $20,000 to learn how to do it. And we don't go out and make claims for the equipment. We say it's for amusement, for research, you know, and basically when you go out and start telling people that a certain vibrational rate is going to heal them, then the FDA doesn't like that. But if you say it can aid and assist the body to kick in the immune system so the body will heal itself, then that's a legal statement. So when we work with nutrition, people call me up all the time and they get mad at me when I say, well, I can't say that. They go, oh, you know me, you can say that. Well, I'm not going to say that because I'm trying to train myself to say the right things so that we don't get locked up, so we don't give our enemy, and we do have enemies out there, and there's certain people that sleep better at night if they've hurt somebody than if they've helped somebody. There are people like that out there. We don't believe that because we're such good people. We got to wake up. Reality therapy is that there are people out there that want to stop healings. There's people out there that make more money off you dying than off you getting well. And guess what? We don't want to support those people. So we don't want to give them any cause to come against us. And that's why it's very important that, that we state things in the proper manner so that we don't get arrested or harassed by these people from the government. You know, it's kind of funny. They came out and harassed me when I bought this ranch out in Idaho and started building a healing center. And I didn't know you were supposed to get permits to build buildings and stuff like that. And they showed up out there and they said, oh, you've got to have permits to put this electrical in and the septic in. And I said, wait a minute. You guys didn't come and ask me for a permit to put that road out in front of the house. I said, I'm not asking you for permits to do anything. Well, they sent these letters to me for about 3 years threatening to take me to court. And I threw them away. And after I'd thrown enough letters away, they quit writing to me. I guess they didn't want to waste any more money on postage. And I haven't heard from them in two years now. So, you know, government doesn't run your life. They don't have to run your life. You don't have to obey everything they tell you. You know, they don't have the authority to do all this. And I guess I always reject what they tell me. And I can remember I was in the health food store one time, and they came in and they told Clancy Myers, you can't have that up. He said, fertile eggs. They said, you can't have that sign up. You don't know if the rooster got to every one of the hens. And he said, well, what right do you have to tell me anything? Get out of my store. And the guy says, you can't do that. He says, I just did it. Get out. And he never had problems again. And, you know, I've got a friend who had a road, and these guys were running up and down his road getting gravel. And he told them to slow down because they kept breaking his windshields when they go by and kicking up all these rocks. And so they didn't slow down, so he just got out there and started shooting their radiators out when they came by. And the sheriff came out there and said, well, you can't do that. And he said, what do you mean I can't do that? I already did it. You know, so often they tell you what you can and can't do, and I just don't buy into it. But I guess I'm getting off the subject. Anyway, you know, this has been an unusual global because, you know, a lot of times there's a lot of different undercurrents. Everybody's all worried about everything, but there's been a lot of harmony here. And I think a lot of times where we get in trouble is, let's just make this little blue spot perfect truth. And we're all trying to move towards perfect truth. Okay? Now we've got perfect truth right here, but we've got this huge circle where everybody's coming in from. And what happens so frequently is, with this group, how many people came into this because of the political aspects? Anybody? Can I get one hand? Ah, there's a hand or two. So they come in here, for example. How many people came in and are here at the meeting because of the health aspects of what's going on? Look at all the see, so maybe they came in over here. How many people came in because of the alien aspect? Anybody? See, we get a few more hands. But see, we all come in and we're all trying to get to the truth, aren't we? And when we all come into the truth and when we all get to the center, guess what? We're going to be a pretty close-knit group. But when we initially come in, sometimes we're a long ways apart from each other, aren't we? And what happens is so frequently when we get together, we don't accomplish a whole lot because we want to fight with each other and prove all our own things. With health, with the alternative health, we all have to really band together because they are using these biological weapons against us. Now, we've come up with some things that are extremely beneficial and that really make some difference. First of all, stinking thinking will screw you up worse than anything else. I knew this guy and he said, I got to quit smoking because smoking's killing me. Guess what? Smoking killed him because he kept verbalizing every day that smoking was killing him. I know another guy that came over from Greece. He says, I smoke all the time. It doesn't bother me. It's not hurting my health. I said, well, if you think that, never did bother him. Now, how you think a lot of times has a very, very powerful influence on your life. I knew another guy, he said, my wife's killing me. She's nuts. She's killing me. She went nuts and he died. Was it a coincidence? I don't think so. Anyway, the other thing that we, so often people come here and they speak about problems and they try to make us aware of all these problems going on in the world. And you know what? There's a lot of problems out there. But how we react to the problem is more important than anything else. I don't think you should be able to talk about a problem if you don't have a solution. How many of you would agree with that? If you're going to come here and you're going to tell us about a problem, you better have a solution to it. Because otherwise, you should just keep your mouth shut and maybe stay home. Carol doesn't need the money that bad. See, the thing about it is we should be solutions oriented. We're going to be victorious. When we live in fear, guess what fear does? Messes up your immune system, shuts it down. What happened after 9/11? All these people are going into depression. And the fear caused tremendous illness. Great for my business, but I'm busy all the time. I don't want to be busy. I would rather go to Mexico for the winter, every winter, instead of just once in a while when I figure I can get away. I get down maybe 1 week out of the month, and then I got to come back. I'd rather be down there all the time. So what we need to do is stop living in fear, start thinking ourselves well, start telling each other how great we look instead of, how we look like we got run over by something. And, get these positive thought patterns going. Illness is, all these people are sick out here. Yeah, they've got biological weapons. You know what? We can knock those things out. We've got these electromagnetic therapy machines. I'll be showing you those tonight. We can actually test your blood, test your saliva. It's a lot like Hannah used to do, only she just used herbs. Well, we can actually take the frequencies, we can add them all up so we can work on all these different problems simultaneously. And what happens is you program that in the machine, you hook up to the machine, and then I can take a circuit tester and I can hold it over your body and you'll light it up no matter where I go on the body. So basically we know it's doing something to the body. We know it's beginning to make some changes. And it's amazing because I know people that were doing this body scan every month. And the fella kept losing 5 pounds at a time. It seemed like 5 pounds every month or two. And he's a farmer out in Nebraska. Finally, the gal doing the body scan said, you got to go see Dan. So he tried the nutrition. It didn't work the first month. So we put him on that EMT machine. Gained his weight back. He was up and going. Doing great now. All his prostate cancer is gone. Can't find any sign of it. Body put it into remission. He gave the body enough energy so that the body could energize itself and heal itself. We saw the same thing with an EMT over in Nebraska. She's an EMT. She doesn't believe in any of this stuff, but her daughter's sick, and she decides, well, I'm going to listen to Stan Irvin. Remember Stan Irvin? He used to come to these meetings. Oh, Stan talked her into coming over to see us one night, and shortly thereafter, she's doing tremendous. Bone cancer. They showed it in the x-ray. She goes back in 3 weeks later to get it scanned. It's all gone. We have no limits to what healings can go on. And yeah, you know what? I don't have anything against what Mr. McCoy's doing. You know what? We're all on the same team. Some things work for some people, other things work for other people. We ought to all try to work together and make sure that everything works so that, because basically it comes down to saving lives. Yesterday, some guy shows up here. He's a judge from Denver. And he's got a health problem. He says, I wouldn't have come here 5 years ago. And I said, well, I probably wouldn't have talked to you 5 years ago. So anyway, I guess the timing was right for both of us. But we're going to be doing a workshop tonight. I'm about out of time. At the workshop, we'll be going through a lot more things as far as how to rebuild hearts. If you had a heart attack, they say your heart's in trouble. You can rebuild that. We're going to go through a lot of things like this tonight. The other thing that we've got is a hyperbaric oxygen chamber upstairs. If anybody would like to, we've got one. We're running hour sessions. You can sign up, and we'll get somebody to put you in there. We take you to 1.5 atmospheres. If you got Raynaud's disease, phenomenal stuff. Gets rid of your cold feet and cold hands. Won't get rid of a cold heart. But it gets the circulation going again. And it's phenomenal with stroke people. It gets rid of the swelling in the brain, gets the circulation going again. We've seen some abs. In fact, a fella came in today. He cut his toe off with a skill saw. How do you cut your toe off with a skill? He's not here, so I can laugh at that. But anyway, Vi was there when he was there, so he knows I'm telling the truth. Cut his toe off. Really clean cut, too. Anyway, he's got a pin going right, kind of like you'd pin a turkey or something. It's got a pin going right through the toe to hold the bone together. And he's going to come over to Nebraska and stay for a couple weeks and do hyperbaric every day. We've got a little ranch out in Idaho that people that are real sick that want to come out, they come out and visit. I put an RV park in, and I put in, a real nice building, and we've got a gal that cooks all these organic foods for people, and we've got a retreat center out there. We've got a freshwater spring. It's absolutely beautiful. So, if you need to get out there sometime, we've got a great facility out there. Anyway, I think I hit everything except, well, I've got some sheets back there. If anybody wants a sheet on the black salve tablet, when they did testing on it over at CSU, they found it knocked out anything viral or bacterial. For biological weapons, this is probably the strongest thing, and there's several people here. In fact, how many people have done black salve here? Look at, I make the black salve, and I guess Frank makes it, but we make it in a tablet form for internal use. Absolutely phenomenal. If you take the black salve internally, because of the zinc orotate in it, or chloride in it, I've got pictures of people that were told, yeah, take the salve internally in a capsule, gel capsule. I've got pictures of scarred up digestive tracts that were just absolutely destroyed. So if somebody tells you to take it internally, do not listen to them. They're absolutely not looking out for your own best interest. And they will mess you up. And I've got the pictures. I've got all kinds of pictures of people that have scarred up from doing that. I'm down to my last minute, but I've got a sheet on that. I've got information on the tocotrine. And it's one of the strongest antioxidants out there. We've also got books on the hyperbaric oxygen. And question? If you've got a serious problem, health problem, if you were exposed to biological weapons and everybody's dropping around you, I would start taking it internally. I'd take one tablet 3 times a day on a full stomach. And what we did there is we took out the zinc chloride and we put in a zinc proteinate, and we put in a buffer that we get. It's an ester of castor oil we get out of Germany, and it's designed to protect the digestive tract so you don't have scarring. And I don't know if you remember Nord Davis, but he had some real problems from overdoing it. Anyway, my time's up. Thank you.